And
Uh,
that's important. We're on the air now.
okay.
Yeah, we were just talking about things men normally don't say. That sometimes they slip out into their videos, and it becomes rather embarrassing. It becomes rather for the group, as if, and it,
I think it sort of makes them endearing though. When men slip up, they do a little what we call faux pas, and we sort of like forgive them when we think, oh, he's just innocent. He's just a bit slow.
it's just a bit slow. Yeah, he just told he's been masturbating while doing that, and it's like, oh, it's like no, that wasn't a slip up. That was an intentional. You have to
Yeah,
think about that one,
yeah,
What a Freudian slip.
Yeah, the Floydian slip. So hello, men. Uh,
yeah. Welcome to the Sunday podcast. We've got Warhorse back with us at last.
yeah,
Forgiven us after all these years.
Years. It hasn't been years.
yeah.
I got tricked, man. I got tricked. I was cooking and I heard the call and I came running and all of a sudden I was here. I couldn't get away.
Well, it's nice to have him back, isn't it? Isn't it, Trav?
Yeah, I baited him back into the hangout. We're looking at well, that's I'm gonna put up Shining's garden in his backyard. We were talking about gardening and the importance of gardening. If you have a yard, it's something. It's not just something to do. It's something that you project out to the world as yourself, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's something lasting. I mean, there's nothing better than a beautiful garden, to relax your mind, to get into that calm state. And yeah, we were just talking about. Well, I was just telling Trav about a little lemon tree I planted as a little boy. I went back there a few years ago, and it's like a real big, like 13 foot tree now. Planted that when I was a little boy, so that was quite nice to see. And obviously the people in the house, they weren't there, so I wasn't able to tell them. I said I planted that tree when I was a little boy.
Yes. Do you have a tree out there that you planted, Warren? When you're a
Oh my
kid?
God! Going all over the world, back and forth to Germany and such. I don't. I mean, there are trees all over that I planted throughout my
Yeah.
life, but I don't think I've ever been back to see any real results like Shining has.
Oh yeah. One of the first things I always do when I move in a house is I know it takes like 5 years before any of the fruit will come to fruition, but I always plant peach trees.
Mm.
I'll grab a peach pit out of one of the peaches and then do exactly what Shiny did there. Is I'll try to grow it, and I have one growing right here because I just moved in this house a little while ago. But that's going to be my next thing is put two peach trees, and then I did this in my first house, and God, I had this huge peach tree, and I fertilized it properly, and it gave a yield sometimes of 40, 60, 80, 100, up to 200 pounds of fruit. But one year it got so big and the fruit got so heavy on the tree, they were like, you almost had like to hold the fruits with two hands because they got so big. It got
Wow.
struck by lightning right in the middle and split in half.
Oh
Oh,
wow.
jeez.
That's story. We've
Yeah.
got Denton joining us. Welcome, James
Hello,
Denton, all the
James.
way from Florida.
Hey, James.
Hello.
Greetings.
Hey,
He's
James.
You got any trees
More.
planted somewhere, James?
Trees? No
Yeah.
trees.
No
we
trees.
got pomelo trees here and pomelo bugs.
Pomelo, did you say?
Palmetto.
Yeah. Well,
Palmetto
they're
bugs.
palm trees with giant cockroach-like bugs that fly.
Cockroaches, yeah.
Yeah, they're palmettos.
Palmettos.
Sure, those two. In Russian, we pronounce them pomelo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
used to-
pomelo is a giant is like a giant grapefruit-like fruit.
Yeah.
Pomelo.
We used to get those in the steel mill. They used to have these huge. It's always hot in the steel mill, and you'd think the bug couldn't make it way up into the cold environment, and it couldn't get out of the shop to spread. But we had these huge. There were steel plates that water just drained in because water comes through in all these steel mills. You keep them open all the time, and then down in those heated areas, we had the palmetto bug had came in with a shipment one year, and it just took over the whole shop. There was like millions and millions of them, and they're huge. They get absolutely, they'll get 2-3 inches big.
Wow. So what?
Yeah,
So what?
so-
Are they like little cockroaches? What are
They're
they?
Yeah, they're
Huge
big
cockroaches.
cockroaches. It's a Florida cockroach, basically. and like James said, they live in these palmetto trees, or it's like a fan palm, if you will, that has a very thick underbrush. A lot of places for them to hide. They'll live in anything. I mean, they'll in your house. They love cardboard boxes. If you got any cardboard boxes around, they'll multiply and breed in those. They'll be in banana trees. I mean, just anywhere that they can live that's kind of protected, dark and everything. And it is basically it's a giant cockroach. I mean, a Florida cockroach.
Wow, I'm gonna just Google that quickly. But I do understand Florida does have its odd epidemic. It does have its swarms. Like I don't know. Did they have like a bat swarm over in Florida? Did they have like a bee swarm and a locust swarm? I know I was watching a few of those nature documentaries where they were showing some of the swarms that America has.
Well, I don't know if we really had swarms of it. We'd certainly have bats here. I got quite a few of them, and we like the bats here, because they do keep down the insect problem, and they're very unintrusive. But they're the little bats, they're not the big ones you see in the caves. Yeah, it's a little fruit bat, I guess, or whatever.
Oh yeah, you got the southern bat. It's the Indiana bat down there.
Okay.
Indiana, there's three kinds of bat in the United States. Basically, one's a large brown bat, one's a small brown bat, and one's the Indiana bat, which is a little rare. They don't grow up. Up here, we just got the small brown ones. Now you can get the big brown ones down there too, because it's more there's warm weather. Here they have to find a sewer or a cave to live in. Winter.
I think the biggest bat is the fruit bat, isn't it? And
fruit bat, yeah.
And I saw, I saw a couple of guys, not I saw it on TV. A couple of guys catching some giant fruit bats, and they're the size of dogs.
The size of dogs.
Yeah, it's like
I've never seen any of them here.
Yeah, these guys, they were like hunting these fruit bats, and like one bat fed like 3 men. So they were,
they eat them.
Yeah, they eat them, including their head.
Yeah, that's a
it's a flying rat is what they look like.
Rat, yeah, they're really good for bug control, aren't they?
Yeah, very excellent for bug control.
People forget about that. They start killing the bats in their attic, and they're not hurting nobody. You got those little openings in the vents up in your attic, and they're not hurting. Now, once in a while, men may come into your house or something. But when you kill a colony of bats around your house, you're going to get mosquitoes, and these bats are eating
the worst thing about the bats isn't the bats themselves, but the guano.
The guano.
That builds up, and that can become a real problem.
Unless you're growing a pot plant. And then you can
I've never tried that. I mean, we have woodpeckers here in this neck of the woods that are the size of dogs.
Yeah, what kind of wood? You got the red-headed ones, don't you?
Yeah, those big ones. I mean, those are scary. I thought, holy shit, dinosaur the first time I saw one. But
they move their heads when you first see one. Their heads go all the way opposite the other way. And then they got the weird feather movement when they do that, and it kind of freaks you out because it almost seems surreal, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You sit and stare at one of them. It's like, ooh, that's a little bit surreal. And we got the it's a woodpecker, but it's a black and white one, and they're rather large the first time you see them, and but when they move, it looks like it'll freak you out. You go, ooh, that's unnatural.
well, every summer in the UK, in Nottingham, we have a swarm of flying ants. Not a lot of people know this, but every summer for about 2 weeks, they're just everywhere. You go out into the Nottingham town, and they land in your hair, on your clothes, all over the cars, all over the trees, and they're just flying ants. Ants they evolve wings, and they just take out.
Right. There's a weird evolutionary process. I read about that, and I seen a show about the ants in England there, and they do something, and I can't remember what it is. They have a strange adaptability, and it's rather aggressive. It's a form of aggressive mimicry, and they impersonate other animals, and then they kill off another species, and it's like rather invasive, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, are the ones that you have shining, are they ground burrowing?
Yeah, the ground burrowing
Yeah,
ants.
that's the ones we have here too, the flying ground burrow. Actually, if you don't know what they look like, you think it's a termite. They
Yeah.
look just like a termite.
They look just
Yeah.
like a termite. Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Do they sting? Or they?
No,
No,
no, they don't sting. No.
Okay,
no.
they don't bite or sting.
I
Well,
bet
that's good.
I bet some countries would eat them as well. I know
Oh,
in like Thailand they eat insects, and
yeah.
that's an interesting topic, isn't it? It's like some scientists are saying, well, to really start thinking ahead, us guys, we need to start eating insects. And
Ooh, yeah. Did you
they
see?
set
What's
this
that
guy.
movie that was just out? They were on the train, Snowpiercer. Did you see that one?
Yeah,
Yeah, I saw Snowpiercer. Quite a
Yeah,
strange film, that.
yeah, that was quite a
that
strange
was.
film. There's a shoe on head lady, and
It's a
they had
student
those
head.
black, yeah, that black bar that they were making. That's what they were making the black bars out of, the food, the
Insects. Yeah,
protein out of
yeah.
insects. It's like, yeah, yeah, I guess that would work.
Scientifically, they're perfectly fine to eat. You know, nutritious,
Yeah,
high in protein. Obviously, they always make that quote, that silly quote that they always say. They say, a pound for pound, there's more protein in here than beef. They always say that. No matter
yeah,
no matter what meat it is, it always has more protein than beef. Oh yeah, soya meat. You know, there's obviously that thing that's been going on for some time now, where they make this like fake meat out of soya beans, and they're saying pound for pound, it's got more protein than beef. How come everything's got more protein than beef?
It almost seems implausible, doesn't it? When you look
Yeah,
at a
it's
piece
silly.
of beef, and then you look at if you're looking at a bug, you're going, nah, that can't possibly be true.
Mind you, I've been watching some of these like cooking programs. Obviously, YouTube are full of these cooking programs and food travel programs, and when they're cooking those grasshoppers in in is it Thailand or Taiwan, they put the chili in, the salt in, and she quickly fries it in some oil and peanut. It looks pretty nice. I think I probably would try some.
Oh,
I probably
yeah,
would.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
And
if
then they've got
that's
the
your
water
culture,
beetles.
if that's your culture and you're used to it and it tastes good, I guess that's that's the thing you do. If that was our culture and if that was our food source, I suppose that you'd find ways to cook them.
Yeah. Oh, we've lost James now. I think we made him puke.
Yeah.
He didn't want to talk about eating insects anymore.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so we kind of discovered a new form of censorship this week, didn't we? And TFM did a video on them about censorship this week and how YouTube is figuring out new and exciting ways to censor us, huh?
Well, I'm not sure TFM got that right. I mean, he was saying that any video of his, and I think he mentioned was it Sargon or another channel. He says every time they mention Muslim or talk about Muslims, they get demonetized. But I don't think that's the case. If you read the forums, if you read the Google forums and the webmaster, the Google webmaster forums, they'll tell you that to be objective, Google cannot fund any religious or political videos, which makes sense. Obviously, if they're paying for example, Donald Trump's campaign, then they've got to pay for what's it called, Hillary Clinton's and so forth and so forth. And with the religious ones, it also falls into the funding of terrorism ones. So, for example, if somebody writes in and says, "Oh, look, these guys, they're Islamic extremists," you can't monetize their videos. It all started off from there. So they said, "Okay, we won't fund any Muslim videos," and of course that went right down to anybody talking about Islam or Muslims. So it's been going on for a while, and really it stemmed from all that. You can't fund terrorism, or you can't fund.
Yeah. So they're going to take down all the political stuff too? I mean, because that's just civil religion.
I don't think they're taking anything down. And
Demonetizing it.
Sargon was the one that kind of censored his audience in the comments section, stating that if anybody was going to make any stupid comments and that please don't do it. He didn't want to get a strike against him, which I don't see where they strike you for what other people say in your comment section. But I think he was worried about the perceived value of having an army of people agreeing with him and going all off on the end of, yeah, kill these ISIS bastards and all that shit, you know, saying anything like that. So he asked his people, don't do it. He says, I will have to block you if you do it. So that came as kind of a surprise, especially coming from him, being such a big, you know, free speech.
Yeah, well, there's been a few incidences where Muslims have been killed on the street. I mean, up in Glasgow, down in Birmingham last month, an old man was killed on his way to the mosque. And if you watch my video when I'm saying, by the way, it's a joke, guys, I don't really believe in white people and yellow people. That's just a joke. Yeah, I put up a few incidences on there, and unfortunately, some people have actually taken it quite seriously. When people start writing, you know, kill all Muslims, people have actually gone out there and started killing. The first guy wasn't even Muslim. The first guy, he was a Hindu guy. He got killed because he had brown skin. But yeah, it's gotten quite.
Well, I think it's a backlash to the rhetoric that a lot of the extremist Muslims are putting out there with a kill all infidels, and we're going to conquer the West, we're going to take it over, and of course people are going to come back and say, yeah, motherfucker, well, we'll kill you too,
Yeah.
So I think it's just a backlash here, and it's
I know, guys. It's time to call for calm, isn't it? It's time to call for calm, and
yeah,
quite a silly.
So was that a bait video you made? Is that what you were saying? It was just
it's a bait title, obviously. The title's
okay, the bait title. Okay.
Well, yeah, you must have seen that video. It's very, sensible. I think it's very, unbiased. I'm stating historically established facts. It's a good video. I want some award for that video.
Yeah, you got quite a bit of attention from a certain party this week. I think they love you.
Oh yeah, the mothers that don't let the fathers see their children. They've got a little gathering now of like women that got all these children to men that they've estranged, and they're always talking amongst themselves, saying how they've managed to get away from these evil men. And I just said let fathers see their kids.
Yeah,
and they got really angry.
You said let fathers see their kids, and then they also these women just go, "You're a narcissistic male."
Yeah. Look at these evil men.
The video with the chick in the shower talking about the.
Yeah, that's it.
I think we all got blocked by her.
I came
in there and I really didn't say anything, and she was. And you know what? I'm guilty of it too. Last week, because all of a sudden a bunch of feminist dykes on bikes found my female ride video, and they must have been all part of some kind of Tumblr area, or I don't know, some kind of female riding group, or on the internet you got all these forums. And she must have come out and said, hey, look at what this asshole said, right? And I got an attack. I mean, holy fuck, man. Ginas galore. Every woman. And I could tell none of them watched the whole goddamn video except for maybe one or two. And then it came down to the ad homs. And, at first I just said, hey, like I give a shit. That was my response to everything they said.
Yeah,
and
did you go?
Nothing.
Did you say, get in the kitchen, make me a sandwich, huh?
Now they already brought that up. That's what I wanted them to do.
Yeah.
And basically, my video was like, why do they need a special day to ride, a female ride day? What do they want, a fucking medal or whatever? And finally, one bitch, or a couple of them, actually, I think there were like 31 downvotes immediately.
Oh, God.
And this video is like, what, 4 months old? 5? I don't know. So, I get in there and she says, well, I don't need your permission to ride and this and that and everything. She says, you got that? And I came back and I was going to block her and not say anything. I says, well, my channel, my video, I'm going to do and say just what the fuck I want, bitch. You get that? And then all of a sudden she got real nice after that. And I'm like, holy fuck, these bitches need to be smacked in the head, I blocked her anyway. But I think I was doing this. The same thing that the shower girl was doing.
They have a female ride day. They're going to need a lot of ambulances out there, aren't they?
Gonna alert the hospital.
No, it's just, what the fuck is so special about this, that they need their own day? Why don't you just get the fuck on the bike? And what is it anyway? Do you only ride one day a year?
Yeah.
I mean, is it, or are you only a woman one day a year that rides? I don't get it. I mean, what do you need this medal for? And they just lost that whole perspective. To them, it all sounded like, oh, I'm just a woman hater. No, I'm not. I don't give a fuck if you ride. I really don't.
Yeah,
I
see
even made
that
mention that
they
my
want
wife rode.
they want accolades for that one day a year where they get on the bike and ride around, and they want accolades for that. The same thing as a 14-year-old boy can do any day of the year.
Yeah. And what's funny, when my wife did ride, and she tried one time to join that Harley owners group, ladies of Harley thing, and she went to one meeting. She came home. She says, "You know what?" She says, "Those dykes can suck my ass. I mean, who the fuck needs this shit, right?" And she never went for any of that crap, and she rode a big dressed Harley. I mean, a big one, And I mean, some of these women are just so. I don't know, but I went into the censorship thing there. I just started blocking people because basically what they were doing is a drive-by, and I guess we're guilty of that too.
Did they actually make a video about you, or was it just in the comments?
It was just in the comments. And, if anybody ever makes a response video to me, I'd be tickled pink.
Yeah,
it wouldn't
exactly.
hurt my feelings at all.
It's a great accolade.
Yeah, sometimes they'll take your video and they'll put the HTTP up on one of their little running chats, and it gets linked, and then all of a sudden you got I had that happen to me with the daily costs. One of my videos ended up there, and then I had like 8,000. It's like all these people, and I was wondering, where are these people coming from? But
I dream of that happening to my video.
Yeah, I got 8,000 hits in one day on that video, and it was really stupid. It was just something that can't even remember what it was.
Are these a Mgtow you're talking about, Trav? Are these the women who you mean when you say that women going their own way?
No, women going their own way. That's an interesting concept, and you got to know that that's the concept of Mgtow. I take it as let them become Mgtow and let them hang themselves, because then they have to get the red pill.
Mm. Or when you say Mgtow, do you actually mean like people like Kevin Strawn and Diana Davidson and?
Yeah, I would love it if they all went over the Karen Strong, Diana Davidson. Who's that other little girl over there? There's a bunch of little girls, and that's what that's for. They can explain to the girls men's rights.
Yeah. Oh, they've gone leaps and bounds. Them ladies. They've got like the honey badgers. They've got a huge following. Their group has grown quite large, and they've got all these personalities on there, and they've got a huge following now. Good on them.
Yeah. You know what? If Mgtow says to a woman too, "Don't get married," guess what? That's one less men that's going to have to go through that.
Yeah, but I think that's one thing that women are not going to take heed of, because obviously marriages are 100%.
Well, they're so rare that women are self-sufficient,
Right.
and that don't get the herd mentality or the whole, I'm not saying it can't happen, but I think that a woman would have to be partially TFL, okay, due to looks or whatever, or social
for the
standing.
TFL girls, yeah.
Learn like being one of the tomboys, if you will,
right?
Which I know feminists would hate that term, right? But you know what I'm saying by tomboy. The girls that learn how to do shit around the house, that can actually grab a tool and do something, help themselves, change their own tire on the car or whatever. I think there probably are a certain number of those type of women. There's a certain number
of tomboyish girls, and they don't want to get married, and that's perfect for them. Because it's the same thing we say we want for them, and then when we posed a question to them of Mgtow, I get all these Mgtows going, "Oh no, they can't have that title," and I was like, "Why? It's just making them into what we want them to be: independent, strong." I want them to pay their own bills. I want them to be responsible and account them. I want them to go to the sperm bank, get sperm from the sperm bank instead of hijacking it from some male out at a bar and then dragging them through courts. I want them to, if they have a baby, I want them to take 100% accountability and responsibility for that baby. That's Mgtow.
Right. I don't see a problem with that whatsoever, and
Yeah,
actually I support it.
Yeah, what's
You
the
know,
problem with that? I support that because that makes my job easier here because now I have a certain portion of women that understand what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think a lot of people didn't understand what you meant by Mgtow.
Oh, I
think
had these morons coming around saying that oh yeah, one guy said yeah you're right, Joe, and it just pissed me off. He said yeah you're right, Joe. All women aren't that way, and I was like, dude, you didn't
yeah,
get
they
the
didn't
message.
understand. They didn't understand that what you meant was just women that are so screwed up that they've decided that it's actually men's fault, so that they're not going to chase men anymore. And obviously that's good for them.
Yeah, that plays right into our game here, and
right?
it's
And
less
what we're saying is to the women is, go ahead, piss off, leave
piss
us
off. Yeah,
alone.
leave us
You
the
know,
f
leave
alone.
us the fuck alone. Don't ruin any more men's lives. Go ahead and be a Mgtow and go your own fucking way. You know, and that's what I think the message is behind the whole thing.
Yeah, how does that hurt us?
No, it helps us actually.
Yeah, it helps us out tremendously. But I get all these guys coming around. I think he used to come here, and now he's not here today. I can't remember his name, Gray Wolf or something like that. And now he won't talk to me no more because he misinterpreted and he told on himself, and he told on what he told on himself, and what he said is that he still values that vagina. He still values that pussy, and that all I'm saying is wait go your own way, because that's what's going to be the eventual if Mgtow has his way. I don't, just do your own thing. Go to the sperm bank.
Right. It goes the same way that you'd think that all these man haters would really love our bunch, because we're getting the fuck out of their way too, and they don't
Yeah.
have to deal with people like us. So what we're doing is basically saying turn it around and let the women do that, and we're happy to see them go their own fucking way away from us.
I'm done explaining Mgtow to them. I want them to get their own Mgtow and self-explain it to themselves. Just get it and go away.
Okay, one of the guys, he made a really good point on that, and he says, well, how can parasites go their own way? And that's a really good point, because sooner or later, all the women, the women that we know about, I'm going to discuss the Japanese side of it, but the Western women, they can't live without men. Who are you kidding? You just look at a woman, she can't open a jar, she can't take a spider out, she can't fix the toilet, what's she gonna do? She's gonna be on the phone to a plumber,
well, that's when they'll have to pay us to do those things.
I know, and that's the thing, a parasite can't go his own way. So women will be coming back and asking for men, and this is the thing about the alleged rape epidemic that we keep hearing about. Now men are supposed to go running and helping to women again. No, fuck that. This is the world they wanted.
Yeah, this is the world they wanted. They wanted accountability and responsibility. I'm just giving them that, and 100% of that. Don't come back after with this philosophy that I'm a strong, independent girl, but I can't do nothing for myself. No, open your own jar. If you got a plumbing problem and you can't fix it, call a plumber, and sex isn't payment. Cold hard cash. Cold hard cash, baby, because that's what you will get with a Mgtow that walks through your door as a plumber. It's cold hard cash. I'm out of here. If you don't have the cash, I'm out of here.
Yeah, and over in the Japanese side, I mean, the women, obviously we've discussed this in certain Mgtow circles, but I think they call them the
fish-eating women.
No, in China they call the leftover women. In Japan, they call the dried fish women.
Dried fish women, yeah.
Fish.
Yeah. Because, and them are TFLers. I understand there's different brands of women. There's TLF women out there too. For every group that we look at and subgroup that we see in men, there's also a subgroup of that for women.
Yeah. And who are they kidding? I mean, they can't live without men. I mean, the Japanese women, as you'll see if you Google search the videos of expats, Americans and Brits living in Japan, they are very popular amongst the Japanese women. They're very easy, as I hear. Of course, I'm not sure this is just us talking, But yeah, the Japanese women are desperate, and
Yeah.
and I don't
Well,
know. I think
they mimic too, and they will mimic our behaviors, and that's interesting. I thought that was interesting to see. There is a certain portion of women that will come around MGTOW, and they'll automatically start mimicking our behaviors because basically that's what they do, isn't it?
Well, chameleon effect.
Chameleons. They're chameleons, yeah.
yeah. Okay. So yeah, I'm really pleased with my little video of that woman when
Yeah.
she attacked me. Because there's only a couple of MGTOW that had that award. You know, when a feminist or some crazy woman that's preventing her ex-husband from seeing the kids, they make an attack video on a MGTOW. I mean, that's brilliant. You know, I really hope I do get some recognition for that.
Yeah, we're gonna have the.
You know, you've made the big time when
I've hit
someone
the big
doesn't respond.
because the only other guy I know was Mayor of Mgtow when VK Clark, targeted him specifically and made obviously a little. She made a few videos about him. I was so proud of that guy. You know, when he got that attack from VK Clark, I was saying, oh wow, one day that'll be me. One day.
We get a whole flock of feminists over just saying just awful things to you.
Because you're doing something right, you know. If they've seen you as such a threat or so worthy of making a video against, it means you're getting to them. You know, you're doing something right.
You're doing something right. That's a very good. Well, that's a very healthy way to look at it.
Oh, definitely. I've been hoping one of those women out there. It would be nice if Lacey Green did it or one of the other ones, but this one will do.
You know what they don't realize is their hysterical indignation that they come up with. You know, when something just sounds a little bit off to them, is driving most of us to dig in our heels even deeper. And if you didn't hate them to begin with, after they get done with you, you do actually have a taste for their blood after a while.
Yeah.
And you got to think these people or women are really that fucking stupid that they don't realize what they're doing.
Yeah,
and they're hurting themselves. They're not hurting us. They can scream insults at me all day long, call me a faggot. I don't care. You know, one guy says, "Do you even ride a motorcycle?" Or, I bet she's ridden more miles than you and everything. And I'm like, shaming talk, fuck off. Boom, you're gone. So don't they get this shit? It's not helping their cause at all. We're not going to be compassionate to anything they believe in.
Anytime they put themselves and put their own neck in the noose, your job is to pull on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's and the censorship thing is just more of that, indignation going on. That like the one on the shower girl. When I was talking to Law, and she says, "You guys aren't going to use my channel to talk to each other, you women haters." And I think we were talking about the weather down here, or where he was at. And I didn't even realize we were still on her channel because I got it in a notification.
Okay.
And she boom, you're both out of here and shit. And I thought, well, fuck, I thought I was already out, So
you can keep talking even if you're banned. I mean, between the person that you and the producer sees it.
Right. But the funny thing was, what we both realized. I talked to Law after that in private. It wasn't all about her anymore. She wasn't getting all the attention on her channel. She had a little hissy fit. And nah, it's my toys. I'm taking them. You're out of here. My sandbox and all that shit.
Hey,
Law's back.
Shiny, did you want to show? Did you want to show the viewers what happens with the censorship today?
Oh, the comment
censorship. There is a form of censorship going on in the comment section now. If you have too many Mgtows or certain Mgtows talking together, they'll only allow one to go on the page, and I don't know how they do it or the criteria, what number system or value system they use, but it happens if you click off of your sign in and look at your comment section. A lot of the comments won't show up.
Yeah, I was trying to explain this to you guys, those guys that are watching me on G+. I was trying to explain this last year. It's been going on for a while, but obviously Google keep changing their little policies. Let me see if I can bring it up. But yeah, they depending on what account you're on will determine who can see your comments. So look,
Yeah.
I just use this as an example here. And this is obviously that woman. This is
the shower. She's in the shower, man. You gotta love that shit.
Yeah, this
She's
is
in the shower talking.
my mirror, my mirror thingy here. So let me just show you the comments on here. Yeah, TFM's watching. He'll be interested in this. But basically, only certain people can see certain comments. Has it stopped? Let me just do this quickly. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so here we go. This is everything. So you see, there's me, there's my comments, there's male feelings, there's messengers, there's life after women. He's back, guys.
Yep. I was talking to him in there.
Okay, there's Turfling Monkeys. There's Termo. He's an ace guy. Eban Soul, old friend there. Metalon Mel, Mgtow. Yes. I'm at his level now. I've got the hate video. Then there's Ryan Andrews chasing the wall. Don't know. That's a new guy, I think. Oh, Batu Khan. Yeah, Batu Khan, my fellow Mongolian. Me and him in the yurt. We recognise a fellow Mongolian immediately. Okay, and then if you log out, or if you log onto an account that's registered as under 18, I think that's what it is here. And this is if you watch the same video logged out or on an account which you declare that you're under 18. Now you see there's me on top there, Termarivo, Eban Soul, Messenger has disappeared, Turd Flinging Monkeys comments have disappeared.
My comments.
Yeah, and also if somebody jumps on your thread and they're flagged as inappropriate as well, your entire thread will disappear as well.
Your whole thread will disappear. So there's you can see the difference. A lot. I don't know what the criteria. I didn't swear in that. They removed my comment off there. They removed Messenger's comment, and it just doesn't show up.
It's not swearing, because look, Terminator Evo, he's swearing. Look, he says this bimbo's dumb as fuck, but his comment stays there. It's your account.
It's your account that's
your account is flagged as being inflammatory or something. Yeah. So none of your comments will appear to certain channels. And TFM, I don't know if he realizes this, but he's one of the one of the channels.
So it's me, you, TFM, Messenger.
No. As far as I know,
mine didn't show up in there either.
Yeah.
As far as I know, it's just Messenger and TFM. They're the only people I know at the moment. But there's another guy as well, but I can't remember his name.
Yeah. Now some guys will say that, well, if you're banned, you won't show up. But this is a friendly channel. Obviously, Shining doesn't have me banned. He doesn't have Messenger banned. He doesn't have TFM banned. So when you, it's just something that YouTube is doing on their own. They're removing messages. They're censoring us.
Yeah. And I can't work out exactly. I think the accounts that don't see the TFM and Messenger, they're like either the under 18 ones or the ones that declare that they don't want to see. I don't know. I really can't work it out exactly, but I'm pretty sure one of the criteria is under 18s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but why would they remove? Yeah. Why would they remove my? I'm 52 years old.
Yeah, you're not under that flag yet, but I know we worked out, or we discovered that when one of the flagged accounts commented on one of your threads, your entire thread was censored, so you disappeared, and that's what we discovered.
Yeah, so this happens all the time. This is just not your videos or my video. This is all the videos out there, all the Mgtow videos. We're all getting. The public can't really see. So the public can't see a lot of our comments. The public can't see what we do. And that censorship is kind of crushing Mgtow in a way, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. Because it
Well,
seems some
if you,
Mgtow channels.
I think if you do a little bit more covertly, like my cooking video, I think it was a meatloaf where I had to bring up the feminist struggling to opening the can and everything, and then I opened the can. You know, I had to get that dig in there. I doubt they'll ever find it, and I didn't have Mgtow, or did I? No, I didn't have Mgtow in the header for making meatloaf. I just, oh yeah, I did. Mgtow or bachelor meatloaf. So yeah, fuck that. That fell on deaf ears. Damn it.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, if we ever expect to get out into the mainstream, we won't do it. It's very unlikely that we'll be able to do it on. And that's what TFM was saying in his video, that they're just going to censor us down to keep us in this box. And there is a box that we're in of viewers, and we can only get that amount of viewers. And if a viewer is of a sensitive age, he's not going to be able to see it. And I can understand that.
No, I don't think it's that simple, because if you look at Mask Mgtow, he's 16 years old, and he found our stuff. There's a lot of other guys as well that were under.
Right, yeah.
So it's quite it's going to be a bit more complicated than I think just the age barrier. But no, certainly you can see.
Now, Turd-Fingered Monkey just brings up a great in his last comment. YouTube comments are linked to Google and Google Plus. So your comments and what you were seeing, do we get censored out in the Google internet sphere there too? Because
I think we do.
Google.
I think we do on G+.
Yeah, we get censored on G+.
They've removed some of my pictures that I had posted up and everything, although they had nothing to do with feminism or Mgtow or anything. They were personal pictures of, you know, me with a bike or the house or even with my wife in them and shit, and boom, they're gone. I don't know what they're doing, but they're definitely not liking something.
Yeah. Now, I did notice what he was talking about when I went to my videos. There was 19 videos or 23 videos that were unmonetized, and some of them were unmonetized for reasons because I had copyrights, and I used songs in there, which I just agreed to the terms, and they let my video stay up, but somebody else is making the money off it. Somebody else is getting monetized with that.
Right.
But I noticed with 4 of the videos that recently had gone down that the settings were changed. And there was no way even if I clicked on the settings, the 3 boxes that you get where you want to run your ads at, I clicked on those, it came back up, and no ads ran. So they were determining that it was coming through AdSense too. AdSense has the ability to censor what, if they don't feel that your video is public, is good for the public, they can just not. They'll just knock you off and not let you monetize that video. And it's all about money too. It's all about what they're willing to pay and what they're willing to, you know, give out for content. So they're making decisions now based on, and pretty soon, and that's going to grow.
They're doing more than that because I don't monetize any of my stuff, you know, and they just remove shit.
Yeah,
you know, if they can't hurt you any other way, then they'll just bump you off and not give you any reason at all. Yeah. Unless, you know, and I've never tried to fight it, and basically with a couple of strikes that I gotten for copyright material, I just took them down or re-uploaded them without it in it.
You see, this is another thing I wanted to tell the guys. Yeah. Now you mentioned that you had videos taken down, etc. Now one thing I've also noticed is channels that have above a certain amount of subscribers have a lot more strict. You know, Google a lot more strict on what they can say and what they can put up. Whereas I might just get a warning. You guys would have the video taken down. You know, and where you might just get a video demonetized, a bigger channel would get a strike. I have noticed that as well. That the bigger your channel, the more strict YouTube and Google is. So
isn't that like cutting off their nose to spite their face? Because
I don't know.
You look at TFM's channel, and even look at my channel. I know exactly what I make. I make about $100 every 3 months, and that's not. But when I look at what they're making about 10 times that amount. So in my lifespan of the short time that I have been making videos, they've made a couple $1,000 on me.
Well, and they're still monetizing it to themselves because almost every video I go on will have the ad running ahead of it. or the little box that pops up and everything. So they're still putting advertisements on
They're
these
still putting
videos.
advertising on there, yeah. So if you look at TFM's videos, and he gets 14, 15, up to 30, 40,000, viewers every video. I think he might get less on some, more on some, but if he's making 1% of that, they're making a lot more money. So they're they're cutting off their nose to spite their face, and they're willing. Mgtow in general, the group, probably makes millions of dollars a year.
Right, but they're not losing anything. Actually, they're keeping that 1%,
Yeah,
because
so
they're still putting ads on his shit, except he's not getting it.
Yeah, is this just a way to taper down what we make? And they're starting to say, no, we're not going to pay the producers to do this because you guys get fame and glory, and you should just accept that as payment.
well, the thing is, YouTube is huge now. I think that there's little dispute on that. It's one of the biggest mass media channels in the world. I would say, I would argue it's more watched, and it's bigger than BBC or CNN or ABC. I think it's the main go-to for all entertainment, for all news and for anything.
When most of the guys do it like me, I'm just doing it so I can provide myself with a new microphone every 4 or 5 months to keep up, because the microphones go bad. So it's not like, it helps out with them. They help me out a little, provide me with a new microphone every 6 months, and it kind of works out that way where I can keep doing what I do, and the bigger guys, maybe able to support a little bit of their lifestyle with it. But there are certain costs in this too. You have to buy them. You have to keep up buying, all this stuff every year. And YouTube, there is a cost, and if they want us to keep doing this, and this is broadly over YouTube too, with every producer, how can they expect these people to keep up doing this with no payment on if that's what they want to do?
When YouTube first started, they were encouraging people to put up videos, and their censorship was very low. I don't know if you guys remember in 2006 and 2005 when YouTube first started, people could put up almost anything, and it was a really, really, like, I would say a great culture. I think YouTube had great potential. And
right, yeah, that's what made YouTube is the bizarre culture. You're allowed to say things that normally you wouldn't hear. And yeah, I have the blue mic right now, and I'm looking at that Yeti, that big fat Yeti one. Turd Flinger Monkey was saying, yeah, get the blue Yeti. Yeah, that is a great mic, and that's the one I have. I got my eye on that with my next $100 whenever that'll come through.
But the thing is, these days, there's so many channels, there's so many people going into YouTube, as video making and the software and the equipment is easier and quicker. Anyone can make a half decent video and have a half decent talk, so long as they've got a half decent topic to talk about, and they sound half credible. They can start a half decent YouTube channel. So now YouTube, they're not afraid of sacking or closing this channel, deleting this video.
Right, there's so many people, that take their place,
I wonder how much G Plus is behind this, because who said it here? That Dr. McCoy. Yeah, that was before Google bought YouTube, which they are in bed together, and it is one entity basically, and that's when the Wild West was going on before Google got involved. And we know Google has, a feminist culture going on within the company, and a very big SJW culture.
That's where Alyssa Myers came from, was Google, when she went over to Yahoo and totally destroyed Yahoo with that feminist culture. She came from Google, so there is.
I always thought Google and YouTube were the same company. I remember those guys. I think it was like, it started off with two guys that programmed the spiders, or the search engine for Google. They were talking about this huge project that they were going to start. All right, guys, I think, they were talking about this huge project they were going to do, and it was going to revolutionize entertainment. I remember that in the early 2000, the end of 2010 or something, that these guys were talking about. Well, no, sorry,
But they have, and now that they've got what they want, they're going to turn into this SJW crowd, which is going to censor all their, and it's going to become rather mainstream, isn't it? Like I looked on a trend, what was trending the other day. You made a few comments on that, and it was horrible. What was trending? It was like looking at channel 43 on your regular station. There was like Kim Kardashian, and there was like some girl putting on makeup and some feminine products and like that. And I was like, oh, if YouTube becomes like that, TFM is right. I'm going to have to find a new place because I can't deal with all that gynocentrism.
Yeah, sorry guys, I got the dates on it. 2003. I watched that.
2003.
2003. I watched that. But yeah, generally, what people find entertaining, what people like to watch, it's always something that it always has to be a novelty, or there has to be some type of a risk involved. It seems people want to watch things that what was
the last thing last year about dumping a cold bucket of water over yourself with ice in it or something?
The ice bucket challenge.
The ice bucket challenge, yeah. Now that's neat stuff, and that's what YouTube used to be about, is like the canine pepper challenge or the cinnamon challenge,
Yeah.
It got really worse after they changed how the format worked with the comments. I think that happened, maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
And all of a sudden, I had a channel up before that. It wasn't called Warhorse, but all my crap was gone. I mean, just gone, poof,
Yeah,
and
the same thing happened to me.
All of a sudden, I was on Internet Explorer at the time, and I couldn't access the comments anymore. And for the longest time, I thought, shit, they banned me altogether. They took my videos down. And then finally, somebody said, well, try a different...
Chrome, you had to go with Chrome.
I went to Chrome, and then all of a sudden, boom, I'm there. Now I had to figure out, what happened to my shit. Well, it's gone. So, I had to start a new channel and everything else. But I think things started going downhill about that time, very badly.
Yeah. We lost a lot of Mgtow producers around that time because a lot of channels, I remember that year, I used to go under Joseph Byrne, and then before that was Joe Byrne. But we lost at least half the Mgtow channels during that era, and then some of them came back and figured out how to get back on, but they were just a mass knockoff of Mgtow and which MRA channels, stuff like that.
Well, you're going to have to tell us about that, because a lot of people they won't know about it.
Yeah, they changed the format to YouTube, and then right when G Plus came on too, that was rather confusing for a lot of people, and then it screwed up what they were doing, and then we lost a lot of channels at that point too. So these little changes seem to be sometimes these little changes don't affect us, and sometimes they do affect our channels greatly. It depends on which channels they pick for destruction,
Yeah, and I don't know if it was a byproduct of changing over. Sometimes, we didn't have a choice back then.
No, you didn't have a choice.
As of late here, I think the last thing they tried to change around was the Google Plus page.
Mm-hmm.
And when you went to the new one, you had an option to go back to the old format.
Yeah.
Because the new format, and I think everybody went back to it, because I haven't seen anything on that at all.
Oh yeah, the
G Plus
red, yeah. Because you can't see. How we have the comments that we talk underneath here, and you don't get that option anymore. Your Hangout, your private Hangout doesn't show up, so you might as well go back. And the reason why we use that page is so we have the private Hangout chat, and they took that out.
Yeah, they did.
I have to jump out.
Yeah.
So guys, I have to go. I'll speak to you guys another time. Okay.
Peace. All right, Johnny. Be good.
Okay. Yeah. So it was quite. They're going to keep doing this, and now that they have the new censorship stuff, and how much worse can it get?
Well, true, but see what's happening. I think it's infiltrating into the internet as a whole. And every big company like YouTube or Google or whatever is pushing the agenda and the narrative in the best way that they can, and Howard Dare, Howard Dare's, he says, TV has stepped in feminism, And yes, the internet is starting to become the same way, or at least YouTube is starting to censor only on Mgtow MRA videos or MRM or anything like that. That's where they're starting to censor, but they're not censoring any of the feminist videos.
No,
And
no.
those are all-out attack videos. I'm surprised that more of the big channels like Dr. Randomercam, hasn't gotten blown out of the water, because he's fairly merciless too. Even though he's not a MGTOW hardcore, but he's more of an MRA and an MRM. But he comes down very hard on people, and but I don't know. They leave certain people alone, But for the most part, if you're hardcore, they only seem to mess with the men.
Right, and we just went through that whole thing with, in Canada, they just had that guy that they tried to censor, and they said he wasn't allowed to say mean things to feminists and everything. And you would think that that would become the law of the land, but in America, I think we still have to go through that, don't we? We still kind of have to say no. You're not allowed to censor people. The Supreme Court would actually have to say that, but we haven't bridged that. And YouTube is centered in
Well,
America.
in their conditions, they can state whatever they want. If you agree with it, there's a certain amount of censorship that they have a right to do. If you're using their platform,
right? It's a business.
How the hell can you take them to court? And the internet being a global internet, under what law of rule do they follow? It's not just U.S. law.
Yeah.
So everybody can claim this. They need some type of immunity from country laws or state laws or any of that. So they get to dictate what happens on their site.
Yeah. I just sent Howard a link in his private chat if he wanted to come in and talk about it, and I think it sent Kevin a link if he wanted to come in, and TFM's always welcome in. He used at the beginning of last year, he used to come in quite often, and talk about the censorship. And who else we got in? Kevin. Yeah, okay. Yeah, but it's getting out of control. What do we do? Do we have to just figure out how to navigate it?
Well, walking on eggshells isn't going to be the answer.
Yeah, that's what we did with that's gynocentrism in general, where men are just kind of censoring themselves back, and that was the problem with the MRA MGTOW split to begin with. Is they were saying, "Oh, you guys got to censor yourself and stop saying all these really, really mean things because you guys are mean, old, awful people." And we said, no, we don't have to censor us, because the law of the land says we don't have to censor ourselves, and we can say what we want in a stern, aggressive manner to get our point through. And it sort of grew into MGTOW. MGTOWs are more aggressive in our nature. But now with this thing, if we have to start censoring ourselves back and tapering what we say and using pleasant words, it becomes a problem unless we can figure out a whole new vocabulary.
Well, if they would apply the standard across the board evenly,
yeah,
I could see where they're saying, okay, these are our conditions, this is what you agreed to, and we're applying this evenly to all people, okay, whether it be man, woman, child, dog, or whatever. And they're not doing that. And this is where the problem lies. How to get around that? I guess we just keep taking our lumps like a fighter. You've been knocked down. You get back up again, one eye is swollen shut. You're fighting with a handicap here, and they know this, because every time they kick us down more and more, you come up with even a bigger handicap the next time around.
Right. Yeah, and that becomes a problem. We just seen examples. We see examples of this throughout the gynocentric world. Is there a name for the gynocentrism? It's the whole gynocentric world there, but we've seen it in a couple videos were made about the girl in New Zealand that raped the baby, and she got a 8-month sentence with an ankle bracelet. And it's a different laws. It's different laws for women. It's perceived, even with their speech, they're allowed to say things. They're allowed to hit males. They're allowed to do whatever they want, even rape babies nowadays. There's different laws for women and that's what we're saying here is, equality means the law is the same for everybody.
Right. I think what you're looking for is that we're actually living in a matriarchy.
We are living in a matriarchy, aren't we?
This is, I mean, they can scream and look, they're not looking for any kind of equality because bullshit. They've had that for years. I mean, since what, the 70s,
Right. Yeah.
And or equality as they see it. They've been looking for superiority, entitlement, and a hand up, and they refuse to quit. There's never enough, and this is the problem when dealing with children and women, is that it's never enough. So
it's never going to be enough. Yeah, the red cream keeps on running. She's running. She's always running. That's not going to stop because because we complain about it. They're going to keep doing it. But I expect that the legal system and the business system would say, no, we have to put some kind of restraints on this with what we can let women get away with nowadays. But that doesn't seem to be true anyways, because like we said, baby raping is okay with them. Murdering their husband's okay. We got a woman up in Canada that is writing a book on how to murder your husband. And
look at it this way too, that you think the legal system would be fairly just, and it isn't.
No, it
we
isn't.
know this, and I used to ride with a guy, and he was a guard at a women's prison here.
Oh God!
And he told me
hello,
that
TFM.
he would rather. Hey, turd flinging monkey. Hello, sir.
What's up? I woke up with a little bit of a sore throat, so I apologize for my voice.
Not a problem.
Okay. Yeah, that's okay.
But anyway, he was telling me that the shit that happens there is nothing compared to the men's prison.
Oh, God, yes.
What these women do and how they act and everything else. And he kind of posited that the reason there aren't more women's prisons is because men are easier to contain. They're easier to harness. They're easier to keep in prisons, whereas women are a huge problem. Not only how they act and what they do, but also their physical needs and what they go through.
Yeah,
so they go. Yeah, they go for the low-hanging fruit, which is the men in this case. Put more men in prison because it's a money-making system. The prisons. In Florida, holy shit, I couldn't count on all my hands and toes how many men in prison we have, and I think we only have 3 women, maybe two and one small satellite. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're just they're not really prisons. They're what the businessmen would call those soft cells. Yeah. So what's your opinion on
about prison or
the censorship thing and what's going on?
Gynocracy or the whatever the femocracy.
No, I like the word gynocracy. It's everywhere, and this is the thing about people who say it's all social Marxism, it's all feminism. It's so much more than that, because female nature has always been the way it is, and there are always men ready to give women anything they want for a pat on the head and a moist vagina around their cock. So as long as that exists, you're going to have society pandering to women. And the thing about female prison is when you think of it from like a hunting perspective, like if you hunt deer, you want to kill the does because that keeps the population down. If you kill like 90% of the bucks but leave the does alone, the deer population is going to skyrocket because the remaining bucks are going to impregnate all the does. Mm-hmm. If you actually want to make a dent in the deer population and keep it regulated, you actually have to take the does out. But because of gynocentrism, we take the complete opposite approach. So we lock up all these men who are raised by single mothers, and then we shower riches upon the single mothers that created the men in the first place, and allow them to have even more bastards that commit crimes and everything like that, because we don't want to address the single mothers as the root cause of all the problems.
Yeah, we do know. We can look at the stats on families of single mothers, and everything. We see that it's up over like even reasonable. If 50-50 is not even it, it's more like 80% now. That you can look into prison stats and say that 80% of these children were raised by single mothers, and there has to be a problem. But the system turns a blind eye to that glaring stat, don't they? And it's
there was a study in the 90s. I referenced it in my video, my old video back when I wrote for Shedding of the Ego about the government can't replace fathers. There was a study in the 90s that looked at the because people talk about the racial sentencing gap, like there's more blacks in prison than whites and all this other stuff like that. Well, if you account for single motherhood, the racial disparity disappears. So that's the root cause. It's not the system is racist, it's that there's so many more single mothers in the black community, and that's causing the black crime. It is causing the black crime. Right. And I've actually had this conversation with people. I'm thinking about doing a video about this. I want to kind of talk about this from like a Darwinistic perspective, because a lot of famous Darwinists, like Dawkins and stuff like that, they're very inconsistent. They'll admit that Darwinism is correct and that it's scientifically proven, but then they will not apply it to humans. They're like, yeah, I believe in Darwinism, but not when it comes to humans. We need to take care of our unfit. And so they endorse government welfare to protect the unfit, which is holding back human evolution. But as a consequence to that, we're making our society worse. And I use this example. Imagine 50 years ago when we had the Great Society. Instead of showering all this money onto single mothers and encouraging them to break up with their babies' daddies to get showered with money and riches from the government, imagine if we just let these single mothers starve in the streets and we didn't help them at all. We told them, you know what, you're going to have to figure shit out. You're going to have to either make up with your baby's daddy or move in with your parents. You're going to have to do something because no one's going to take care of you.
Or become responsible.
Exactly. Be responsible. Don't have kids you can't afford to have.
Yeah.
Be an adult. Now, if we did that 50 years ago, there would have been a lot of pain for that generation in the 60s when that welfare program started. But imagine the society we would have now in 2016 if for 50 years we were consistent and we did not reward single motherhood. Imagine how much better the black community would be, how much less crime and gangs and drugs and murder there would be without all these single mothers just and it's not just the black community. The single motherhood rate in the black community is about 75% today, but it was about 30% or something like that in the 60s or 50s, and the white single motherhood rate is now what the black single motherhood rate was in the 60s. So and as you see the single motherhood rate rising among other races, you see the problems that were present in the black community back in the day starting to take hold in these communities. So it's not a racial thing, it's not a genetic thing. Mm-hmm. It's rewarding single motherhood, and the reason is very obvious if you understand sexual dimorphism and the role a father plays. The father is the only adult in the family. The mother is just another child. She's like the intermediary between the parent and the child. She's like the head child. But without a father there, a woman cannot turn a child into an adult because she is not an adult herself.
Yeah, she is not an adult herself.
So, I see a lot of mothers. You say play intermediary, and that is correct. They, even my wife, when she was married prior to this with her child, played a go-between to protect her daughter from her father, on certain things. To get her to do things, she would say, well, I won't tell your father if you do this or do that and everything else. It's another form of manipulation. Is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, they try to be the kid's friend. They try to be like one of the friends. And they also play good cop, bad cop. Like whenever there's discipline to be meted out, it has to be the father. But the mom will swoop in and kiss your boo-boos and make you feel better, so that you'll turn to the mother and you'll end up resenting the father when he's the one who's actually teaching you. And a lot of times, and then the mother will lie or exaggerate if she wants you to get punished. To the father, and it's just a terrible situation. So it's multifaceted. So like obviously it's bad for the father not to be there, but when you have a father who's just a mangina, who's just under the thumb of his wife, and the wife is just using him to be the bad guy and to do what she doesn't want to do, that's almost just as bad. because then you're getting a terrible example as of an adult. Because then you're saying like, okay, this man who I'm supposed to look up to and emulate my behavior off of is a total fucking pussy who lets his wife walk all over him, and so that's what I'm supposed to be.
Yeah, he thinks that's the way it's
supposed to be. What brought that about is back when I was growing up, it was always, all of us heard this, is wait till your father gets home.
Wait till your father gets home.
And if the belt came off, it was your father that used the belt. You know, your mother occasionally might have a meltdown and throw shit at you, you know, but or smack you with something, you know, whatever was at hand, the wooden cooking spoon or whatnot. But it was always wait till your father gets home. The father is the bad guy. And then came along this peace-loving hippie movement that said, no, you know, you can't hit children anymore. You can't even smack them on the butt. You can't talk mean to them. You can't do anything. And they went off the other direction and fell off the cliff with that, to where we've got nothing but what I like to call Generation Snowflake, you know, which is all these coddled kids now that think they're entitled to everything and can get away with whatever the hell they want growing up. You know, there has to be a happy medium here, but there isn't.
It comes from the magical thinking. So this started with feminism and the whole gender equality thing, because men and women are physically, mentally, genetically different, and more than just the sexual organs. We actually are a sexually dimorphic species. But that doesn't sit well with feminists because they don't want to admit that women are actually physically and mentally inferior to men. So they started this whole campaign of magical thinking where if we just tell girls that they're just as smart as boys, if we tell girls they can do anything a boy can do, despite their physical and mental limitations, then it's going to happen. Like, they just need to believe in themselves, like mind over matter. So even though their brains are smaller and they have less gray matter, they're just going to become just as smart as boys if we just tell them they're smart as boys. Well, they tried that for a couple decades, and then when that didn't work, like, okay, we need to pull boys down and make them girls, because maybe if we convince boys they're girls, the whole point is to turn us into bonobos so that girls can dominate the boys.
Right.
So they tried magical thinking to let the girls believe they were boys, and when that didn't work, now they're trying to emasculate and effeminize the boys to make them believe they're girls. And the whole idea is we somehow magically wish away sexual dimorphism, and then the girls can finally dominate the boys.
Yeah.
And it's so fucking stupid.
There's a rite of passage that doesn't happen when the father's removed from, and everybody knows that's an important rite of passage. The father takes the boy at maybe 12 years old, and then he starts teaching him how to be a man. If you remove that from the system, you don't have the same man at the other. You have what you would say is the bonobo. Now, I see another aspect of this, and like you said, there's many threads that come off of this, is when the mother turns the boy into the provider.
Yeah, well, not only that, they use guilt and shame and manipulation to try to make the boy supplement either the father if he's there, or if the father's gone, they try to turn them into the father, because women are just lazy. They don't want to actually do anything. So if they have a male there, they'll try to use guilt or shame. When you see this, I mean, I think it was Black Ram, or it might have been Truth 40. There are these videos of these black men calling the black woman God. Like, there's just like this black woman, nothing special about her, and they're like calling her God because she, you know, like this, they're worshiping her as a goddess because they were raised by single moms and they have absolutely no sense of their own worth, and they've been beaten over the head by their single moms their whole life and told they're worthless and their only value is serving women, and now they've grown up to grown men. Now they're independent, they're grown adults, and they're worshiping this beat up whore as a goddess because she's a woman.
Yeah, the Lord thing. I think they say the word Lord. They call her Lord. It comes from the traditional, the tribal ritual of religion, and then they associate that with the Lord in that position. And I've seen it before. It's just it's an awful thing, but it all comes down to giving in to pushy worship, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, but we've got another problem too, which means that how can a man, all right, and I use the term man loosely, a father, let's say, that never got raised as a man, raise his son as a man? You know, this is a snake eating its own tail, where you can't have a mangina or a simp or a man that's under the thumb of a woman, where it's perceived that the woman is a strong one in the relationship. And now you've got a father figure that's in the house, being henpecked, being talked down to, being told what to do, and trying to raise the son and teach him how to be a man. And this has gone on, I think, for 3 generations now, where the men or the fathers are not men that know how to uh, pass that down to their sons of how to be a man.
Well,
Yes,
I could speak to that because that actually was my life. I was raised by a single mom, and after she abandoned me when I was 12, and I ended up living with my grandma and grandpa, and it was only there that I actually had some semblance of a male role model was in my grandpa, but he ended up dying of cancer while I was in high school, and then my grandma went crazy because he didn't have life insurance, and she tried to use every trick in the book to try to get money out of me so I could supplement her lifestyle.
Right.
But I was messed up for years. I mean, and the thing was I was totally blue pill because my single mom. People you can't underemphasize how life fucked you are when you're raised by a single mom, because all the tricks that a woman uses to manipulate a man, she uses against children. And unlike a grown man, if you're red pill, you're totally immune. Even if you're blue pill, you probably, you have a fully developed brain. You can recognize patterns. You can see that something's wrong. When you're a child, your brain is not developed enough to understand what's going on. This is all you know. You're just completely brainwashed, and you develop something that's probably very akin to Stockholm syndrome, where your mother is abusing you. And I'm actually going to do a video about this because I had some that video I did about Boogie where he was beaten by his mom and everything? Yeah. Well, I had some people PM me with similar stories, and I noticed a consistent pattern. And I saw this pattern in my own life and in the life of one of my brothers because we were all abused. But they internalize their abuse. When a man internalizes his abuse, and they do this strictly out of and I don't know how much of it is instinctual gynocentrism, how much of it is culturally reinforced gynocentrism, but they internalize their abuse because they're being abused by their mother, and they can't rectify the paradox of here's my mother that everyone tells me loves me, and she tells me she loves just like any abuser. They have those moments where they stroke your cheek and tell you they love you, and then they have the times where they beat you. So he has this paradox in his brain. He's being abused by a woman. And when you're a child, it's not like you're a grown man, where if a woman slaps you, you could just uppercut her, knock her teeth out. And yeah, you're going to go to jail, but she's probably not going to abuse you anymore after you knock a couple of her teeth out. But as a child, you have no recourse because she actually is bigger and stronger than you, and she's dominating you, and nobody believes you. When you tell somebody that your mom abuses you, nobody cares. Everyone laughs at you. Everyone says you're lying, because women are also very good at putting on a mask in public. They'll smile and shake hands, and then nobody believes you when you tell them how abusive they are. But
there is a way for, look, I can sympathize with you because I got raised by a single mother too. And, when I was a young kid, when I first came to this country to live with her, which was around 8 years old, she always told me how thankful she was I was born a boy and this, that, and the other. And for the longest time I thought, wow, she's really proud of me because I was a boy. I never understood that what she did was actually use me, to do things around the house, to do this and that. She was very abusive. Actually, one of the guys she married, and she was married quite a few times to quite rich men, but he told her, he says, if you keep this shit up, that boy's going to grow up to hate you. And he was right. I did grow up to hate her, and I did fight back, and I quit taking her shit. When I was a teenager, I had enough of her crap and went out on my own. Now, I probably didn't choose the best path in the world because of that, because I had to get away from it or wanted to. But, and I've tried to, rectify the relationship over the years. It never worked out, and we parted ways again. So I can certainly see this, but if you have enough fortitude, once you get out of childhood, it may be a bad childhood, but you do start to see it, when you get older and you start taking control. And I don't see that happening with a lot of guys nowadays.
I I agree. Like, actually, no, I was getting up to the point you just made. So people like me and you, for whatever reason, and I'm not sure if it has to do with IQ or whatever, because I had an older brother who, you know, we shared mostly the same genes. We grew up in the same environment. He completely internalized his abuse. He blamed himself. He white knighted for our mother. He ended up destroying his life. He turned to drugs and alcohol, married some single mom stripper. I haven't talked to him in years. Last time I talked to him was a few years ago when he was begging for money, and I told him if he divorced his wife, I'd let him stay with me. But I'm not letting him stay. I'm not giving him any money as long as he's married to her. And that's the last time we talked. But for whatever reason, I was able to externalize the abuse, put the blame on my mother's shoulders, and you know, I hated her for a long time. But like you, I left. I told her to fuck off. I didn't want anything to do with her. I still don't talk to her. I haven't really even tried to salvage the relationship. I feel nothing for her. If she ever comes, and the funny thing is because I have some financial success, she brags to people about me, to her friends, about, well, oh, look at my son. He's doing this and that. It's like, bitch, you, in spite of you. And if you ever come to me like when you're old, like, oh, now you need to take care of me because I'm old, I'm putting you in the cheapest, most crooked home I can find, and I'm going to give them extra money to like drug you up and not change your adult diapers and just leave you sitting in your shit for a week.
Yeah, payback's a bitch.
Wininger gave great examples of that in his book, Sex. When he talked about sex and he talked about the female, and the greatest thing that'll happen to a female is when her child becomes better than her, and she can brag about her like she made that child, and that's what they do to boys too. They'll put them in that position where, oh, look what my son's doing, look what my daughter's, they're such a good, and they get some validation from that, and that's the validation that we talk about around here. The men get, it's the same validation as men get from women, but the women, the mothers, get that same validation from their male child when he starts being what she projects out into the world as the perfect child, and that's usually a simp or a mangina or someone that's going to assist with the gynocentric.
Well, they assume they're entitled to like what that boy's accomplished. So they'll be like, oh, like you see these athletes that have multi-million-dollar multi-million-dollar NFL contracts, and then here comes the mom saying, oh, now you need to buy me new boobs, and you need to buy me a house, and you need to give me all the hair, and I feel like they think they're just entitled to their son's income, and of course he's like, oh, sure, mama, let me just buy you everything, and this is like a 6'5", built like a brick shithouse athlete, just bowing down and worshiping his mother because she broke him while that child was a boy, or while that boy was a child. Yeah. She broke his spirit like a horse.
Single mothers,
Yeah, and just like, okay, I'm going to groom you to be my little provider, and when things work out, you're going to pay me all this money. Because you see these athletes' moms, and they look like they're in their 30s, like even though they're like in their 40s or 50s, because they have so much plastic surgery, and they're like they think they're like some sort of like Kim Kardashian or something like that. Like,
on the red carpet.
Yeah.
And they're relentless too. They never give up. I remember when I was home from the Air Force, I was in my dress blues, all showered up, ready to go and everything else. And my mother, she says, come on by, I want to get a picture. And I'm like, okay. And I had a date, I had a girl with me and everything. And I went over there, and she took her picture, and then she says, hang on a minute. She comes back out with a tree saw, and she says, I need these branches taken down. And I said, are you out of your fucking mind? I'm in my dress uniform. I'm going out with this woman that's dressed up to the nines, right? And she says, oh, come on in. It'll only take you a minute. I said, I'll come back when I got time, You should have seen her look, man. Oh, she was pissed. It never stops, man. No matter how old you get, if you let them get away with it, and their age doesn't matter anymore. They are relentless at abusing you because they've always done it. They always see you as that little boy that's scared and will capitulate to their wants and desires all the time. And if you don't, they'll make your life miserable. Well, there comes a time when they no longer have that power.
You have to say no, and I'll say this a lot in a lot of my videos, is you have to come to grips when you come into Mgtow what your mother was. And you got to say it to yourself. I love my mother. Everybody loves their mother in a way because of that
I
kinship
don't.
bond.
Fuck
And-
my mother.
I don't either.
Yeah, but you gotta say, like, hey, my mother was this hypergamous whore that was a gambling machine. In my case, she was a gambling machine and spent my father's fortunes, and was so selfish. And as soon as I said that to myself, it was like, oh God, and you did the same thing, and you did the same thing, and you say, no, my mother wasn't that Virgin Madonna that there was. And we're going to see a great example of this in an upcoming NFL drafts, aren't we? When they're going to bring those mothers up, those single baby mothers, and their son's going to be drafted, and all she's looking at is that $2 million contract that he's about to sign, and they're going to give all those mothers, and you never see fathers going up with their sons up onto that stage, and they'll bring them up, and they're going to go, look what a great boy I raised, and there's that validation, single mama validation.
I think the last guy that sports figure that brought his father up was the black golfer. Crap, I can't. I had his name.
Oh, Tiger Woods.
Tiger Woods. Yes.
Yes, he did do that.
He displayed his father very proudly, and I don't think I've ever seen any other athlete do that. You know, not to that degree anyway. It's always the mother. They've always dressed in fancy clothes, a lot of jewelry on them. You know, the kid bought it for them. You know, because their sons are so, important now, and they're making money, and they've made something of themselves. And mom does all. Look, even Elvis did that. You know, back when he made a couple of dollars, instead of buying himself a house or anything like that, he bought his mother a house.
Well,
and a
women
car.
think that because they squeeze you out that you owe them like everything. Like they have the same attitude about their husbands. Like it doesn't matter if this man worked decades to amass his wealth, and you were married for 6 months. She gets half because she deserves half the stuff you took decades to amass. And when it comes to their sons, they're just like, oh, I carried you for 9 months, so you owe me half the wealth you earned throughout your life because I carried you for 9 months. And think about my mom, and my mom only had me to trap my father and to get welfare and child support, because the day that the state cut the welfare, because the welfare is based on the age of the child. Once the child turns 12, the welfare goes down because you're not considered. So when that happened, my mom abandoned me. I was no longer useful to her.
I just had this with my son. You guys know my son came and lived with me. The reason why my son came and lived with me because he quit his job and was looking for some schooling and didn't have and as soon as that happened, boom, over here, you take care of your son. Now it's my son. And I was like, oh, sure, glad, I'll do that, because that's what I wanted to do the whole time.
Yeah, now that you're no longer getting a check, now you don't care. But when there's money on the end of it, oh, it's my baby, don't take my babies away. But then take the money away. Oh, fuck it, you take them. I don't want to deal with them. Now,
in interesting perspective, my other son just came out of school, and he did it right, and I taught him how to do this whole thing right and go into the trades and everything, and he makes $27 to $32 an hour now. You think she wants to get rid of him? No, she coddles that boy.
Oh, yeah, no, and the problem is, I don't know, like, I thought about, if I could go back in time, would I undo? Because, I mean, obviously, you go through a lot of painful shit. Part of you is like, I would like to go back in time and undo all this. Maybe I would have turned out differently. But then, I don't know if it would have been for the better or for the worse.
We like the way you turned out.
Well, thank you. Well, I mean, it was a roller coaster ride, but you see things and you can't unsee them. Like when I saw my mother for who she was and her abandoning me, and that really fucked me up, because I did 2 tours in Iraq and I never got PTSD. But when my mom abandoned me, that really fucked me up. That fucked me up far more than going to war. And it took me years to process that.
Oh yeah.
And because when you're 12 years old, you don't know what's going on. Like, and this is your I was raised by my single mom. I had stepdads coming and going. But she was like, my world. She was the parent that raised me, and she just threw me away. And I internalized that for years. I thought I did something wrong. And again, I really wish I knew what the key was, because I think that would save men's lives. Because my older brother ruined his life. I see Boogie. He ate himself to like 500 pounds.
God, that's so sad, isn't it?
But I've also seen one of the guys who PN'd me, I'm not going to give his name, but he had a similar story. He said his mother abused him. He ended up becoming addicted to drugs and alcohol because he was too scared to kill himself. And so he thought if he destroyed his body that nature would take its course. And these men internalize the abuse they receive from females. It's a form of Stockholm syndrome. And I'm not sure what the combination of factors that need to be there to allow a man to see through that and wake up and realize that it's the mother's fault and to externalize that abuse. But if I could just find that key, we could save countless men's lives, because that's the anti-simp pill.
Yeah,
is this
realize what your mother is the first step, and then in a guy like Boogie's case, Mgtow would do him just wonderful things, wouldn't it? Get him walking, internalize what his mother is, have a place to talk, tell everybody about this. This is what we do here. It's a cognitive therapy program that's undervalued right now in our society. Mgtow is the cognitive program, which we could take a guy like Boogie. You know, we talk about health around here a lot. We talk about working out. We talk about getting there, walking, getting out into the your neighborhood, going into the woods, walk around, do some fitness stuff. Start contemplating and doing those introspections that we Mgtows do regularly. Consider what your mother is, what damage you did. Get by that and start living a healthy life, a manly life, a life that you're not full of shame and there's things that are going to kill you before your time. And man, a man like Boogie, if we could take him and just get a hold of him and explain, and I know he'll reject a lot of it from that blue pill thing inside of him, but if we could just get him, just a couple of these guys, and show, you know, the dynamics of Mgtow and how helpful it is to men to get him back on healthy and on the right track, and healthy mentally too. Well, that's a beautiful thing, isn't it?
Well, I don't see, the issue is you almost have to be comfortable hating your mother.
Yeah.
And I don't see, like, culturally that is extremely frowned upon. In fact, it doesn't matter what you did. Like this woman who raped her baby, if that guy grows up, learns what his mother was and what she did, and is like, I hate that cunt. She fucking molested me when I was a child and sold a sex tape for $300. And didn't get any jail time, and like, oh, that's your mother. Oh, she gave birth to you, bro. Yeah, there's so much shame, and I've been shamed. I've been shamed by people when they're like, oh, you gonna call your mother for Mother's Day? I'm like, fuck my mom. I don't give a shit. And they're like, oh, how could you say that? Oh, she gave birth to you. She gave birth to me for welfare, to trap my father and to get child support. If there was no money in it for her, she probably would have aborted me. That's how much I meant to my mother. And as soon as the check stopped flowing, she got rid of me. So fuck her. I don't fucking care. But people like the gynocentric system worships motherhood. Like, it's almost like these old tribal fertility cults,
right? Where
they have it's kind of funny if you look at these old tribal fertility cults. The goddess is like some fat-bellied pregnant woman, and what's the stereotypical feminist is this fat fucking woman with a big belly that you could almost guess was pregnant, and they're like the new goddess. So it's all like, history just repeats itself with different costumes.
Yeah. That's why I always say it's a ritual. When we start dating, it's a ritual. We're dating up to those marriages. It's a ritual. It's tribalism. It's when a man starts realizing these things, that it's a tribalist ritual to trap him and trap his utility and take his freedom, they can start seeing these things. But we got a lot of work to do around here to get men to overcome. And like you said, what is the magic bullet that we have to find? And I often think about this. Them words, that paragraph or phrase we can give men that just go hit them with and go, yeah.
Well, but here's the thing. I tried talking to my older brother, and he could not bring himself to hate our mother. He white knighted for her. He tried to restore that relationship. He ended up destroying his life. I had another friend in high school who we were like best friends. I would stay at his house all the time, and he had a mother and a stepfather. They were both alcoholics, and the stepfather would beat him and his sister up, and he would blame the stepfather when the mother was behind it all. And I could see that as an unbiased third party. I could see that the mother was an accomplice in everything. She was using the stepfather as the muscle, but she was the one behind the abuse.
Right.
And when I told him this and I showed him the evidence, he got angry at me. And he had this whole like master plan. He was going to like murder his stepfather and go to jail. And I'm like, dude, don't do. First of all, you think like your life is going to be so much better with your stepfather gone, but your mother is the root cause. If your stepfather died tomorrow from a heart attack or something like that, or a car accident, she would marry someone just like him.
Yeah. Now, we had a similar, and I hate to go on to this on air on live, but I feel I must tell this story. When I say my kids were kidnapped, I really mean my kids were kidnapped. She brought a man in the house that was selling drugs, and her plan was to sell drugs to make money. They stole a few cars. While this was happening, they were trying to turn my son into a little drug dealer. What had happened is when he rejected that and tried to move in with me, is they tied him to a chair in a room for a month and kidnapped my son. The man got, this is the man that my wife brought in the house that was supposedly better than me. They tied him to a chair. The one boy was found in the cold, half frozen to death. And when I say they kidnapped my children, they did, really. It was horrible. She got 8 months out of that. He got 5 years.
Well, of course he got 5 years because he had a penis.
He had a penis.
And she still got custody.
And she still got custody. After that, we went back before the court, and the judge says, that's in the past. She still gets custody. They put my children back into that horrible person's house where my children were abused terribly. There were bullets going through that house at certain points.
Well, you fucking like, okay, when you get to the court, of course it's in the past.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like fucking Minority Report where we're talking about crimes we haven't committed yet. All crimes that you're talking about when you get to court are in the past. That's not a fucking excuse. Like, oh, that was in the past. It's like fucking, remember that scene in Lion King where Rafiki hits Simba on the head with a stick?
Yeah.
And he's like, why'd you do that? Like, it doesn't matter. It's in the past.
Yeah, of course it's in the past. And when that judge said to me, you know, the only thing I can think in my life, and that was a changing point in my life, was you have an enemy now. And maybe I'll get to you, and maybe I won't, but you have an enemy now because you did that. And I tried to, they wouldn't even hear the story. And she had another pending felony. When we're sitting in front of this judge, and the judge says, is there any legal reasons why this shouldn't go through? And I said, yes, she has another impending felony, and that negates the case. He said, no, that's not good enough, and he gave him custody. But if you would have said, I'm a transgendered lesbian, and so I'm a woman too, he'd be like, oh, well, you're a transgendered lesbian. Well, here, take your kids. Yeah, I wish I would have known that one earlier. You know?
Okay, I'll tell you a trick. One of the guys I knew while I was in the military, he was an Army guy. I worked in like a joint service office. So here's what he did. He had a crazy ex-wife. He had a beautiful little daughter. She was like 3 or 4, and of course his wife. You know, like many military men, he was being used by his wife for money, and she ended up. She decided it was time to trade up, so he was going through a divorce. He ended up offering her $50,000 for her to renounce her parental rights to their daughter, and she took it, and they signed the paperwork and everything. And then when they got to the court, she tried to sue for custody, and he whipped out the paper that she signed and took $50,000 in exchange for it, and the judge gave him custody of his daughter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's a gift. Did he use it's a gift term?
No, because he had a contract. Like, if he just would have given her $50,000 and all they had was a verbal contract, he would not have his daughter. But he actually had a written contract. And he actually knew the JAG officer, and JAG is like the legal department in the military. So he had a JAG officer help him with the contract. And the wife, he gave her $50,000 cash, and he got custody of his daughter. The only reason why he got custody is because he tricked his wife into basically agreeing. But she was all kinds of fucked up. Yeah, she was on drugs and all. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Oh God,
the fact that men have to. Like, the system is so stacked. Unless you have like this brilliant plan and all these resources to manipulate, like, you're going to lose your kids. And then, in the case of this baby rapist, that was the punishment. Like, oh, this poor woman lost her children. Hasn't she suffered enough? It's like these men are losing their kids every day, and they haven't done anything wrong.
Oh, that's like, the first thing I thought about is, the judge said she lost her children, and that's torture enough. And I thought, man, I lost 3 children, and I didn't do nothing to deserve that. What about my torture? What about my physical? What about my pain? It doesn't mean nothing. You're a male. You got a penis.
Yeah, you're a male. Like, and when you say it, when the cold hard truth is nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
If you have a Y chromosome and a penis, you're right. It doesn't matter. all that matters is what you can do for the greater good, for the system.
Right.
If you're useful to the system, maybe they'll give a shit about you.
Give a shit.
Maybe they'll give a shit, but only in so far and to the extent that you're useful to the system. But a man himself has absolutely no value.
No.
Yeah, whereas a woman is like, oh, you have a vagina? Oh my goodness! Here, can we throw more money at you?
Well, that comes from childhood, you know. I heard it all my life, you know, as a young kid, is man up, don't cry, doesn't hurt, you know, or get back on the saddle, or do this and that, you know. And you know, when shit really did hurt and things were really bad, you always heard that. Well, come on, you know, man up, or you're a big boy. But when girls cried, everybody was, oh, poor baby, come here, you know, all this tender love and you know, affection put out to them. Whereas nobody ever hugged a boy, or not me, you know, when something happened to me that was really fucked up. And actually, it was toughen up, you know. And my stepfathers used to tell me that all the time.
Oh, stepfathers will do that. Man up, little man. You're the man of the house.
Well, but if a man tries to be affectionate with his children, people assume he's raping. He's like a pedophile. Like if you hug and kiss your kids, everyone's like, "Oh man, that father's hugging and kissing his children. What a pedophile! I should call CPS."
Well, so not when I was a child.
It's not just So it's not just like, I mean, the single motherhood thing I think is like one of the root causes, but it's not. It's reinforced up and down. Too. It's like fathers, like let's say, I don't know, let's say for whatever reason, I don't even know, but let's say there was a guy who was red pill who was a father and decided he was going to raise his sons right, and he was going to be a good example, and he was going to be affectionate, and he was going to do this. Society would look down on that father because he's not supposed to be teaching his sons to be independent men. He's supposed to teach them to be disposable utilities for the system.
Yeah. This is a form of, I did the video this morning, it's a form of legalized child trafficking, isn't it? The whole system traffics these children from better fathers that could do a great job to women that can't do a job, so they can get the utility from the father and they can run their system, run their jobs through it. And they see this, and then I look at it as, when I say my kids were kidnapped, I really mean my kids were kidnapped, and they were trafficked to the mother. They were transported to her to draw the utility, and I was put in a slavery position. When I say these things, I say them very, very clearly so people can understand what happened. And I see the system as a legalized form of child trafficking.
Well, it has to do with the fact that a man's role can be externalized, because the man's role is primarily protector and provider.
Yes,
but all of those can be extracted and externalized, because if you can take the man's money through threatening him with prison, and you can use other men like police officers and stuff like that to provide security, then you've effectively replaced the man's role. So all you really need the man for is to work and pay money. Whereas the woman's role, because it's biological, you can't externalize that. Not until we actually have, like, you know, Rosie from the Jetsons, like a little nanny bot. You can't externalize that. So they still have inherent value. Mm-hmm. So it's a product of technology, and this is the problem. Like in my solutions video, I point to, you know, using technology to transcend the limitations of our biology. But in a terrible catch-22 paradox, the more technology we develop, the more women, because women are always liberated first, because their jobs and roles are so much easier than men's. So it's much easier for a woman to be liberated from her, you know, roles through technology than a man is. So women are always liberated, and then they start feminism once they're bored.
Right.
So how do we get to a point where we actually have the technology to transcend our biology without allowing technology, the same technology, to liberate women and cause feminism and collapse society again? And I don't even think that's even possible, other than to just constantly go through the cycle.
Well, here's another thing. It's this righteous indignation that women have about anything male-oriented. If you're a man trying to raise your son and give him some male values, or trying to teach him something, women will absolutely have a hysterical fit, take it personal insult upon themselves or to all women out there that you're teaching this boy to hate women, or not to like women, or not to respect women, because you're teaching him something that is purely male-oriented.
Well, not even that. Like that guy at the college in my video yesterday, he was trying to start a men's issues group from the perspective of egalitarianism, and that was threatening to women. Anything that isn't 100% only pandering to women and benefiting women is anti-equality in the eyes of these feminist women. But it's not just feminists, it's women in general. Like, they view, if you could show them a system, like, take away men and women, put like X and Y, just anything other than men and women, and they'll agree, oh, that's a really messed up system, oh my gosh, that's not fair at all. But then when you put men and women in that situation, and you can see that instead of it favoring X, it actually favors women at the expense of men and not Y, then women, they change their tune. And it has to do with that care-based morality. And they've done studies on this where they've had a scenario explained to both men and women, and when just the facts are presented, both the men and the women come to the conclusion, the correct conclusion, essentially, based on justice. However, once they go into the backgrounds of the people, like they'll say, okay, this man did this and this woman did this, both parties will say, okay, that was wrong, this was right. But then when they say, well, this woman is a single mother and she's a person of color and she had a bad childhood and blah, 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 then they're like, oh, we need to have compassion on that. And it's because women are just, their care-based morality just is counter to a just system. So the only solution, and I really tried to find an alternative because I realize this sounds like a very extreme solution, but the only way to have a just society is to keep power away from women completely. Because as soon as you decide, like, oh, women, they're citizens too, we need to share power with them. No. And ironically, having a patriarchal system where women have no power and the men have all the power is actually much closer to a balanced egalitarian system than an on paper egalitarian system, because women, because of their solipsism and their own group bias, will capture the government or whatever system you devise in order to favor themselves at the expense of men. Whereas men, because they have a sense of justice, will actually benefit women even if they don't have to. Even if they could absolutely just abuse them and treat them like property, they won't, because men actually have an internal sense of justice that women lack.
Yeah, we see
actually
this with
power for women is misunderstood. What they're looking for is the kind of power that they shouldn't be allowed to have. Whereas with a patriarchy, what men usually do is make women's lives better. They work for that cause to do things to help women out, more so than other men. So when women get in charge, they're looking for personal power and power only for them. They're not looking out for anybody else other than themselves first and maybe some of their own kind second. Men, on the other hand, are always doing things to make women's. I mean, God, we would have never invented a washing machine if we didn't care. And men didn't invite it. I mean, that's just one of the things I'm saying. All the kitchen appliances, every convenience in the world that men have invented and developed was for the benefit of women.
Yeah.
And
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, and this is where women now want the power, because they have all the conveniences that they think that they need, that they want to shove the men aside and give nothing back at all. So
it's the bonobos. In the bonobo society, because they live in this little pocket of the Congo with no gorillas and no predators, the closest thing they have to a predator is like a crocodile if they get too close to the river. But if they just stay away from the river, they face zero predation. So because without any predators, the women just decided to dominate the men. And if a man gets uppity, the women will hold the man down and bite his dick and fingers off.
Yep.
Yeah. Now we've seen you did a very good video on the care-based economics, and I know where you're going with that. With when you read feminist care-based economics, the first thing you're going to come with is how the economics is generated by the cooperative economics, and there's two kinds of there's an authoritarian economics, and then there's cooperative economics. Now we can look at Argentina as an example of this, where a cooperative economics came in with the countries. And we can see how this develops into the macro, and how destructive that care-based economics is, because when push came to shove, these countries got shoved under the carpet by the bigger, more stronger companies, and that's the same thing that happens in the micro in our economy, and in the families too. When we look at this, you did a good video in the French economics, I think it was.
Well, yeah, I mean, feminism is French. Like
Yeah.
Marcus did a video about how all the philosophical underpinnings of feminism come from French philosophy. But when it comes to economics, it doesn't. The rules of economics don't change according to scale. And if you look at laissez-faire capitalism,
Yeah.
it's evolution. You know, it's very
evolution.
cold. It doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
The strong survive, the weak die. It's very unfair because, you know, just like in nature, if you're born with a handicap, like let's say you're born with one leg, you're fucked. There's nothing you can do about it. It's not, but you can't blame anyone because it's nature. You were born with one leg. It sucks to be you. But people don't like that. They don't like the unfairness of capitalism, so they turn to socialism and communism.
Socialism, the Marxist feminism, and all
Yeah,
that.
but the problem is you're only But the thing is, you can't eliminate pain because you can't create a heaven on earth. All you can do is spread the pain around. So instead of the unfeeling market, you know, like nature, making things unfair, you now have people consciously making things unfair. So instead of having people born with the one leg, and now you're screwing this person who was born perfectly whole, but you're going to punish him in order to benefit the person with the leg. So now, unlike nature, because people can have an easier time accepting nature being unfair, like oh this happens, that's life. You know, what are you going to do? But when a person is consciously fucking your life up, it's much harder to be ambivalent about that, because now someone is actually consciously ruining your life, as opposed to nature just rolling the dice and you having to come up snake eyes. So, and that's why those types of economic systems always have to result in force and gulags and walls and sniper rifles and mass graves, because people will rise up. Like, because if you live in a laissez-faire capitalist system where businesses come and go and people are constantly either unemployed or getting their companies taken over, and there's a lot of unemployment and pain, people could be like, well, shit, you know, I lost my job, well, I got to start a new job, because there's nobody else to turn to, there's nobody to blame, it is what it is. But when it's a government or a group taking your shit away, you're going to launch a revolution. You're like, fuck those people, let's go kill them. And then when you try to do that, that's when the secret police come and take you to the gulag or put a bullet in your head, and that's why communism killed hundreds of millions of people.
Yeah, well, you see this playing out now, we talk about the Justice Warrior games and everything that they play, but we see the same system playing out now in a micro situation, and our rights being taken. Like we started out with censorship. That was one of our rights, because YouTube is it's in America, and we should always respect the right of anybody to say what they want to say to, you know, a marginal amount, and YouTube was based on that. But now we got these things, and we often say that it's about MGTOW's about making this the culture, and we threw around a few words and a few ideas earlier in this thing. Cultural Marxism was one of the big words, but that's what they're doing to us now, and it all has to do with that care-based economics that they have that puts the woman in front of the man, and no matter what we do, we're just a utility, and all that garbage that they're throwing at us, and that's boiling down to our very freedoms now.
And it's important to recognize that predates Marx. If Marx was never born, we would still have that.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Look, people blame the Marxists for everything.
Kevin made a statement here. Do we want a society where men no longer help women? He says, no, we want a society that's fair to men and women. Well, actually, we've tried that. It doesn't work. It doesn't fucking work. There is no fairness in life. Life isn't fair in itself. I mean, life actually has no meaning whatsoever. Give that bullshit up. Nothing is fair, and we've tried being more than fair to women.
Right.
We tried giving them every goddamn concession that we possibly could. We've worked our asses off to the bone. We've done everything for these women, and this is what we've come to. This is what we get in return for what we've done. Yeah. Fair? Fuck it. No, we've tried it. It's not working. Well, we're done.
We've also rejected like all the wisdom and common sense that we inherited from history.
Yeah.
Because you read like Socrates or something like that. Old philosophers, they recognized men and women were different, not just physically, but mentally, intellectually, morally, and women had to be constrained. And for the longest time, you had a system where the man was recognized as the moral authority, and they more or less dictated to the woman, just like a parent would to a child. Now, this doesn't mean you could abuse women, like just like parents can't abuse their children. Right. Men were supposed to take care of their women, but they had authority over their women. And I think it started, like some people point that it started in the 60s or it started in 1900s. I think it started with the Protestant Reformation.
Yeah.
Because there was this whole push, like, because you had the Catholic Church with the Patriarchy and everything like that, and everybody wanted to kind of cast all that off. And, you know, because souls are equal in the sight of God, that means men and women are equal. And then you also had them getting rid of nuns. I thought nuns are actually secretly brilliant because women weren't normally educated. However, they did educate women who took vows of celibacy and poverty. So you've now completely eliminated gynocentrism. Because now a woman cannot be the only way for a woman to be educated was for her to renounce sex and material possessions. So she was now basically defanged. And so nuns were brilliant, but of course one of the first things the Protestants did was they got rid of nuns because they weren't in the Bible, and they decided to teach women to read and everything like that so that they could teach their children. And as soon as you did that, you can actually trace this. There's a one-for-one correlation. As soon as they started educating women, you started having the beginnings of feminist authorship. The authors who would one day lead the feminist revolution in the 1900s, they had their start right after the Protestant Reformation, the Age of Enlightenment, where all these women were educated and started talking about equality and freedom and everything like that. And because, you know, and unfortunately we just forget. You know, it's kind of like, I mean, you notice right now, like, all the World War II vets are now dead. All the people who served in World War II are dead. So as soon as they're dead, as soon as the last World War II vet is dead, what do you see everywhere? You have, like, nationalism, neo-Nazis, the social justice, using all the tools of Nazis as soon as the last World War II vet is dead. Because now that they're dead, they can't speak out against it. Now that they can rise up and be like, aha, now it's our time to use all these tools that, you know, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, they would have called us out on, but now that they're all dead, we can do it. So, you know, given enough time, we just forget. We think, and also there's this belief that, you know, evolution doesn't just work on its own. It requires the unfit to die out, and it requires the fit to reproduce. Yeah. But when you retard that system, we're not necessarily advancing. If you look at, you know, especially this generation, the millennial generation, they're not more evolved or anything. They're actually less evolved. The single motherhood is fucking up everything.
Yeah, it's going back to the bonobos.
Yeah, exactly. And bonobos they're a subspecies of chimpanzee, but they're actually less intelligent because they're smaller and less sexually dimorphic. Their selective breeding and their female domination has actually caused them to regress, evolutionarily speaking. They're still apes, but they're actually closer to smaller monkeys than chimps. Because the chimp can use tools, it has a larger brain, it can actually do things, it has a higher degree of intelligence. Bonobos are really fucking stupid. They just fucking rub their balls together, and they don't know what the fuck's going on, and they have no way to respond to threats. The women just and the men are just completely at the women's mercy. And what pisses me off is, I made this video, it was hosted by the guy who played Qui-Gon Jinn. I made like a little abridged version of it. But they show like chimpanzees in a forest. And it shows like the males dominating the females. Basically, the alpha male of the chimpanzee troop basically wanted to get some sex, and the woman tried to get away, and he like chased her down and punched her a bunch of times. And basically, he's like, "No, it's just happening. I'm taking the sex." And the animal scientists were saying how horrible it was. Oh, it's so terrible. The males are dominating the females. It's absolutely terrible, reprehensible behavior. And then they're talking about the bonobos. They were speaking very highly. Oh, and the females have dominated the males. Isn't it wonderful? They've dominated the males. This is fantastic. They're so peaceful. They're so egalitarian the way they've dominated the males. So in this fucked up world we live in, male domination is terrible. It's reprehensible. It's violent. But when females do the exact same thing, it's this glorious, free, equal thing. Like female domination is equality to them. And they say
when we dominate and do all these horrible male things for the benefit of females, like going to fight wars and everything, then it's okay. You know, they pick and choose these things.
But not when it affects the females. Like, okay, if you look at the grand scheme of things, like if you think logically, chimpanzees are vastly superior to bonobos. They can exist in much more diverse areas. Like the bonobos only exist in one little pocket, whereas chimps exist they live in 6 different countries, all different kinds of climates. They're much more hardy. They're much more resilient and adaptable. They have a better society than bonobos. However, at the cost of that, they don't put up with women's shit. the alpha male's going to slap the bitch around if he doesn't give him the pussy, and there's nothing she can do about it. And they're like, oh, that's terrible. If only we could teach these chimps to be more egalitarian. And there was actually another not a study. Basically, what happened was there were this troop of baboons that lived outside of a hotel, and there was some trash that was laced with tuberculosis for some reason. And of course, the alpha males, because they always get first crack at the food, the alpha males ate all the tainted food and ended up dying of tuberculosis, so all the alpha males were dead. So this troop of baboons became very bonobo-like. Like the females started dominating the males stopped abusing the females, and these scientists happened upon this baboon troop and thought it was so wonderful. But here's the thing, it's not a closed system. So what they did was they protected this baboon troop from other baboons. They didn't want another troop of baboons with alpha males to come upon this baboon troop and dominate them and take them over, because that would be the end of their little utopian experiment. But in real life, that's exactly what happens. When you have the alpha males either killed off or driven off or what have you, and the females dominate the males, the entire group becomes weak and stupid.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
then
they biased the information, didn't they?
Yeah, and then another. Yeah, it's so. Once you see it, like once you swallow the red pill, you see it. It's like almost a better analogy than The Matrix would be that movie They Live with Roddy Piper,
Oh yeah.
where you put on the glasses and you see the propaganda everywhere, because they just say it with a straight face. Oh, isn't it great the women are dominating the males? This is so free. This is so equal. It's like, how is female domination equality, but male domination is terrible? But they don't even understand it. Like the words come out of their mouth and the synapses aren't connecting somehow. But in humans, because we don't have alien overlords keeping us separate from each other to protect their little experiments, another baboon troop will happen upon this troop eventually, as soon as the scientists aren't paying attention, and all the little beta males are going to get killed. Yeah. Unless they're either going to submit or they're going to die, and then all these women who are like, oh, we're in charge now, they're going to get the fucking shit beat out of them, and then the alpha males will be like, I don't think so, and how about you bend over because I want to have some babies now, and they're going to realize, oh shit, this guy's a lot bigger and stronger, just like a child. Like, I'm sorry, let me make this last point. And actually, I have to go because I haven't been working on school at all while I've been talking, and I was supposed to.
I'm sorry about that.
Okay, so you know how Stefan Molyneux always goes off about spanking?
Yeah.
You know how it's terrible? I don't agree with him, and here's why. It's all about escalation of force. When you have a child, you can't like divorce your child or whatever. Like you're stuck with your child. So you have to have a way to address behavior where there's no other alternative. So you can say we're gonna have a reasoned discussion. I'm gonna explain why this is bad, and they're gonna be like, fuck you. I'm gonna blah, blah. And like, okay, well you need to sit in timeout, and you sit them in timeout, and they're like kicking you and biting you, and they refuse to sit still. You know, there comes a point where you're like, okay, you know, I can't. All I can do is assert the fact that I'm bigger and stronger than them. That's all I can do. So either I can hold them down while they're biting me. I can restrain them. Yeah, or I can be like, yeah, exactly. Okay, like you want to kick me and bite me? Well, I'm going to show you what being like twice your size feels like with my open hand on your ass. And then when they feel that, they're like, it's like magic. You see their brain, they click. Like, oh shit, this guy's twice my size, and that really hurt. I don't want that to happen again. I'm going to listen to him. It's like magic, and that's what some children, not saying all children, and a lot of times when parents are consistently, when parents are consistent with discipline, they don't have to spank their kids after a while. The kids realize, okay, I'm not going to do this because I don't want to get spanked, and then they behave. So the problem is women are spoiled children, and eventually men are going to remind them who the adults are, and then just like magic, it's all gonna be cool. The women are gonna be like, oh shit. This sexual dimorphism is real, and gender is not a social construct, and he could kick my ass. I guess I should listen to him.
Yeah,
but
it's
until that magical day. That's why that movie about the video I made about the tipping point.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it's going to be, but they're talking about like, you know, lying to women to get sex is rape. Someone was telling me they're trying to pass a law in Canada to make it legal for women to kill men, to kill their husbands. Just legally, like, oh yeah, you could kill your husband. We're not going to prosecute. Like, what is it going to take, guys? At what point are men going to say, no, this is bullshit? And like,
when they get their balls back out of their fucking old lady's purse. That's what.
But they have to be, and like I did with the Power of Pain. They're scared of, because obviously the government is on the women's side. If they stand up to women, other men with automatic rifles are going to come to their house and take them away to get butt fucked in a shower room. So what can they do? I mean, there comes a point, just like when the pain of not doing anything exceeds the pain of doing something, that's when men will do something.
Yeah. law
when
just
when they
did yesterday
fear
about this.
when they actually fear their wives murdering them and getting away with it more than they fear the police or whether they feel some gynocentric judge. And they're like, fuck it, I'd rather go to jail and get butt fucked in a shower room than be murdered by my wife in cold blood and have her completely get away with it because the laws are completely on her side. So I'm gonna fucking defend myself, and if I go to jail, I go to jail. When that happens, and when enough women basically get murdered or beaten up or something, when there's consequences, that's when things will change. But I don't know, 5 years, 10 years. I mean, it's going to take a lot.
What I see here is that with each passing generation, the men are less and less of a man, and are willing to accept this type of behavior from women. And there's going to come a tipping point where, yeah, the men will never pick their balls back up again and do anything. A lot of the older guys that were raised in that mindset are dying off, and with each new generation, I'm seeing that they're becoming weaker, more feminized, more weaker and more feminized, and it's a snowball here that I don't see any chance of stopping, to tell you the truth.
I don't think it's genetic. I don't think
No, it's not genetic. It's social.
Yeah,
but
that can change. That can change the drop of a hat. Like you look at Japan with the herbivore men. They are really into fashion. They're very skinny. They get their hair done nice. Like they're acting like women.
Well, they bought into the catch-22, didn't they?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's all about how you resolve that paradox. But that could change. I mean, that was like one generation. It's not like sexual dimorphism went away. Like, to become a bonobo requires a change in genetics. That takes generations and generations. Okay. It's not going to happen. Long before we actually devolve into bonobos, we're going to be taken over by another society. I'm not going to say who, but you probably know what I'm talking about. And when that happens, all that shit will end. Because they're not going to put up with that shit. They're going to put everyone in their little Sand People outfits, and they're going to tell them to shut the fuck up. Yep. And that'll be the end of that. And then all these women will be like, oh, we equality. It's going to... No equality.
Right, I would say that the Sharia law is reverse Western society, and Western society is reverse Sharia law.
Well, I had this exchange. I think his name is Quasar. I don't even know how to pronounce his name. Qsar or something like that. Okay. But there was this guy. He was kind of like a white nationalist type of guy. I don't think he realized that. But he was like saying how, how could you side? How could you talk? Because I was basically jokingly saying like, I'll just convert to Islam if it comes to that. I don't give a shit. I have no loyalty to Christianity or the West. Fuck them. But they were saying, oh, how could you do that? How could you betray your people and all stuff like that? And so this other guy popped in. He said, well, if the choice is, I mean, obviously the ideal solution would be the West to pull their head out of their ass and establish their own patriarchy. But that's probably never going to happen. So if the only options are a feminist gynocracy or Sharia law, I'll choose Sharia law twice a day.
Now it's interesting when you look at me, you, and Warhorse here. We're all three veterans. And we were very patriotic at one time in our life. I signed up, you signed up.
I did 2 tours in Iraq.
Yeah, we all did our thing, and then we're the same guys that right now that are looking back, and it's that Shakespeare play, with the Roman soldier, and they turn against them. They've turned against us, and they've caused us to reconsider: is this worth this? Was it ever worth it? Was this woman ever worth going there and fighting for?
Well, and
I do sometimes feel like a fool for being a pawn in the military. Where I used to be very proud of it and my role that I played.
Well, I'm proud of what I did. Like, I joined right after 9/11, so I was looking at it. Well, and there was other reasons too, because I was like, there's a lot of shit going on in my life. But the primary reason why I chose to join the military as opposed to exploring other options was because 9/11 just happened. And I'm like, oh, fuck no, you don't fly planes into my buildings, bitch. But, it's like when you see the gyno... And I was still kind of blue pill then. I was still actually very blue pill. Yeah. So I didn't see the gynocracy around me.
Right, me neither.
But once you see it, and you're like, holy shit, like, you have enemies on all sides. And it's like when the people you're fighting for, they hate you, just like my mother, who abandoned me because the checks stopped flowing. The government, Western society, the United States, they don't give one fucking shit about me.
They don't give one shit about you.
if I'm not,
Coriolanus is what I was saying. If you ever read Coriolanus, that's a good. All Mgtows should read that Coriolanus.
okay. I don't know, but the thing is, okay, so I've just kind of, I try to be objective. I try to look at very objectively. And it's like, looking at our available options, because talking about some utopian alternative which isn't going to exist doesn't do you any good. You have to look at the available options. So you see the West, which is pretty much, no matter what happens, we're fucked, because we're not having enough babies to maintain our society regardless. You need to have 2.1 babies.
Yeah.
Or 2.1, 2.2 to maintain your society. We're having like 1.3, even with Hispanic immigration, it's like barely at 2, and that's with Hispanic immigration, which isn't necessarily the same culture. So the West is fucked anyway. Demographics is destiny. So the West is leaving. So now you have to ask yourself, okay, how am I going to best position myself to benefit? Because just like as a stock investor, you need to always think ahead. Okay, something's going to happen. How can I capitalize and benefit from it? You can't just fight it. You have to kind of roll with it. So I see the West falling, and so I'm thinking, okay, what can I do to benefit from this? And being a white knight or a white nationalist and dying on that hill for the gynocracy, fuck them. I'm not. Fuck that to hell. I don't give a shit. I will gladly convert to Islam. I'll yell Allahu Akbar and throw those women in burqas, and I will laugh. I will laugh myself into unconsciousness over it.
Oh yeah.
I wouldn't mind it, except that I can't get behind any type of religious woo.
Well, you don't have to believe it. You think most Muslims actually? Well, you think most Muslims across the world actually believe in like the supernatural stuff? Like most Christians, they go to church once a year, whatever. They say they believe in Jesus. They don't really believe it. I mean,
yeah, it's like Robert Downey Jr. said, listen, smile, agree, and then do whatever the fuck you were going to do anyway. I live by that.
You convert to Islam, you say your prayers, you do what's culturally expected of you. You pray to Mecca and whatever, you say your salam alaikum, and then you go about your day. And you're not gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna ride on my magic carpet and I'm gonna look out for genies. Like that isn't part. Like you don't have to believe in the supernatural. You can just be very secular about it, very private about it. Just do what's culturally expected of you. But I can't think of a scenario where that would be worse than living in the gynocentric West, where men would be treated worse. I don't like. Yeah, there's still gynocentrism because of reproduction, but at least you're not like this bullshit. Like if a woman rapes a baby in a Muslim country, what happens to that woman? She gets fucking killed.
She gets stoned, or something.
She gets stoned to death or hung or something. I don't know what happens, but she doesn't get a slap on the wrist. I can't, like, if anybody out there can find me an example of a Muslim woman raping a baby and getting a slap on the wrist like just happened in the West, like, let me know, because I really just don't see that happening. And I think that would at least be a step in the right direction. And since it's really the only viable alternative at the moment, I don't really give a shit. I have no loyalty to the West.
No, that's sad that they've taken a lot of good patriotic men and just made them into, and it's happened quite quickly, quite recently. They've made us into people that would never, I would never go out of my house with a rifle anymore and protect my country, knowing that all I'm protecting is the bunch of baby mamas and whores and prostitutes and egalitarian abusers, and the same people that abused me for the last 10, 15 years. I would never do that.
Why would you go out? I tell young guys this all the time that are thinking about joining in the military. I says, why would you protect something that doesn't give a shit about you and will never even say thank you for what you do?
My son asked me if he thinks he should join the Army. I said, no,
hell no.
Go to school. Yeah, go to school.
And
or be a mercenary.
Or be a mercenary. You could be a mercenary.
Yeah, go be a mercenary. Go work for Blackwater.
Yeah, that's what I'd done, and it was good pay.
I went in during the end of the Vietnam War, and it was damn unpopular back then. And I probably could have had a choice. I was an only child, but I went ahead and went in. But and when the young guys say, "Well, you were in," I said, "Well, times were different. We didn't get treated like this by the overall society, and we didn't. It was just the hippies and the young feminists and all that were against the war, and the war really had reached a conclusion there that was obvious that we were in it for the wrong reasons. But nevertheless, society still looked at you with some kind of respect for having gone in. And I think it tried to get part of that back with the Iraq problem, and everybody's starting to say, well, thank you for your service, which, yeah, I got that too a lot, and I felt it almost an insult to thank me when, back then I was a baby killer and, all this and that, the other. So I tell people, no, don't let this system use you anymore. Do not.
Well, they brainwash men into seeking validation by being a utility, not just to women, but to society. Like men are groomed to destroy their lives for others.
Correct.
That's their purpose in life. If you're not sacrificing your life for someone else, you're selfish. You need to sacrifice your life for someone else. You selfish bastard, man.
Yeah, that's.
Anyway, I gotta go, guys. I got school to work on, but it was nice hanging out with you.
Thanks
All right.
for coming in, TFM, and hopefully you come around. And it's great. It was great to have TFM in, and we're running about 2 hours and 10 minutes now, and I think it's about time for a break. Maybe we'll come back later about 4 and do the natural 4-1 if we can. We'll see who comes in at that point. I was thinking Messenger might come in, and Shining will be back in. And we'll see what's happening. This was a great talk. Another great edition of Throwdown. We brought up some very uncomfortable subjects, and it's uncomfortable not for us. It's uncomfortable for the world to hear these things. But sooner or later, they're going to have to wake up again. They're going to have to accept these things. But we're just telling the truth now, and we keep telling the truth, and we keep telling the truth until things change. Got a summation, Wars?
Yeah, you say it's uncomfortable, and I hope it is for a lot of people out there. I hope it's real goddamn uncomfortable, and that it gives them time to think about shit and come to grips with the reality that we're dealing with right now, and maybe do some positive changes. I don't feel uncomfortable talking about any of these topics, and I will continue to do so. Because basically I'm free to do so. Yeah. And there's nobody here to monitor me or to, tell me what I can and can't do. No moderation going on. And I'm going to continue on with it. So there it is.
Hey, I don't want my son to inherit this society that I left from. So it's my turn to make a difference in this world. And I'm trying to do it. I wish that more men would jump aboard the Mgtow train here and start making a difference and start saying these things. But right now it's up to us, men. So be strong, be verbal, be aggressive with these people, because that's the only thing they understand. And if we're not, and we don't do that, our children's children will inherit a worse society. And I'm not willing to send that to them. So with that, I'm going to stop this broadcast, and thanks a lot, men, for coming around. I thank TFM for coming in. I thank you, Warhorse, for coming in. It's all appreciated. Some of the guys, let's say Kevin, Black Gnostic Speaks. I'd like if you're around later, Eli, and you want to come in. I love talking to Eli and Kevin and all the regulars that come around. I thank you. Let's be strong, men. Let's take this out there and say it strongly, because it doesn't hurt us nothing to say it strongly. Let's get strong about this. And with that, I'm going to end this broadcast. Love you guys.